Today I want to talk about learning to listen to your own tuition, your own intuition, your own inner voice. We'll get these words out. Um, and how doing that is actually an act of resistance and an act of rebellion um, against the current systems that our society is operating on. I am in the United States, so that systems like patriarchy, white supremacy, and capitalism. Um, there's probably more than that, but that's like the main ones, right? Um, so when from the time we are little, we are taught to um, listen to authority figures, to defer everything to some authority figure outside of ourselves, whether that be um, a parent, adult, a man, a boss, a political leader, um, a, a god, whatever. Okay. And we learn to silence and not listen to our own intuition, um, especially women and people who are labeled as sensitive because, we don't know what we're talking about, we're overreacting, we're too emotional, whatever kind of nonsense, right? When we start going through the process of unlearning that conditioning and start learning to listen to ourselves and our own intuition and our own inner voice, um, those outside authorities that we have been taught and conditioned to listen to and believe and follow, no matter what they say, um, start to lose control over us and our lives and what we're doing, right? And um, power structures and systems of oppression do not like that at all. So there's a lot of pushback against that, and they work really hard to make sure that you are aware that there is no way that you know enough, have enough experience, are logical enough, or whatever enough, um, even trustworthy enough to be able to listen to yourself. And now I said inner voice earlier to go along with intuition, and that might have made some of you be like, wait a minute, my inner voice is mean. It's a critic. It is rude. It says the most awful things to me. And that voice is not your voice. That is an outside voice that has been implanted into us from society, from um, our parents, from whatever outside of ourselves, and used to replace our own intuition, our own inner voice. Okay. Um, your own true inner voice will not speak to you and, and say horrible things to you about yourself. Okay. That's not your voice. You don't need to listen to that. That's somebody else's voice. Those are somebody else's words that have been implanted into your brain because you have heard them over and over and over again so many times from other people. And you absolutely do not need to listen to that nonsense. Just ignore it. Tell to be quiet and to go away because you don't have time for that nonsense. Okay. Um, your own inner voice, your own intuition is the um, pulling together of your your own knowledge that of things that you have learned through your life experience, through whatever kind of educational programs, whatever you've done in your life, right? And it's a connection uh to spirit, to the divine, to your ancestors, right? And it's all that coming together to give you the information that you need for whatever it is you're doing in your life. Like you and I could be experiencing the, like, be in the same situation at the same moment right next to each other and receive very different intuitive messages or advice or direction or whatever, because we have very different uh, lived experiences, very different knowledge bases, and all that kind of stuff. And we are not on the exact same life path. Even if we both have the same goal to be the best photographer of red tulips that ever existed, it's still not the same path, right? Um, so it's that's another reason why it's so important to learn to listen to yourself, because something that I say that, you know, worked really well for me still might not be the best option for you, right? And of course, that's why it's always important to listen to our own discernment and um, think about our own situations and what is going to help us achieve our goals or have our live our best favorite lives of whatever we want to do, right? Um, and we learn to not listen to our inner voices by being, told over and over again that we should not listen to that. But we have experiences in our lives through our society that reinforces these ideas that we cannot trust ourselves, that we don't know enough, um, that intuition is wrong. You shouldn't trust your gut feelings because it's not logical, or all those kinds of things. And the thing is, those they get reinforced because we have experiences that reinforce them, and we have to take a moment and ask ourselves, like, did we trust this person or situation was going to be, good for us, or whatever, in trustworthy, reliable, whatever, in some way, because society taught us and conditioned us to believe that that person or situation was safe and good and correct, or because our intuition lied to us. And most often, it is because our societal conditioning told us that something was safe and good and correct, even though it is really not. It's the social conditioning that that teaches boys that being mean to girls is how you show affection, and teaches girls that boys bullying or hitting you, or harassing you is signs of affection, and that's what love is like. It's the conditioning of, you know, what is another good example? I had one and now it's out of my brain, so maybe it'll come back. Sometimes that happens. But it's those kinds of things where we're taught something is safe and good. And I have an example, and it would be an example that kind of pisses people off. Like, okay, women are conditioned to believe that men are safe and and good and that we need them, right? While at the same time, our lived experiences often teach us something very different. Um, so, what that does is when you meet someone, uh, you can ignore your intuition and rely on that conditioning and like think to yourself that what you're experiencing, what you're understanding, what you're knowing is intuition when it's actually conditioning. And then um when that relationship or whatever goes badly, you say to yourself, you can say, "Yep, my judgment, my decision making, my intuition cannot be trusted. I cannot trust myself to make good choices for myself because this didn't work." Right? Does that make sense? I hope I'm making sense with this, getting my point across. Um, Sometimes I feel like I'm not very good at that. Um, but it's so when we're first learning how to listen to our intuition again, that's something we have to think about um, is what we're feeling, is our gut instinct, our bodily reaction, even, what our mind is thinking. Is it from our societal conditioning? Is it a response uh, to a previous bad experience? Or is it actual intuitive information coming through? And when you're not used to paying attention and going through things and sorting that out, um, it can be kind of confusing. It can be kind of hard. Sometimes you'll mess it up, and it takes practice. Listening to your intuition takes practice. Listening to your intuition requires you being in your body and not out there somewhere. And in our current modern society, we are not very good at being in our bodies. Our bodies um, can hold on to uh, negative experiences and trauma and stress and pain and all this mucky stuff because we don't learn to process and deal with it properly. So it makes it uncomfortable to sit and be in your body to deal with those things, but also, to listen to your own intuition and seek guidance in that way. So it takes some practice, it takes some time, but it is your normal natural state of being. It's a normal natural way for you to receive information and bring information that you already hold within yourself up to the surface where you can make use of it, right? Um, Where are we going to go with this? Okay, being present in your body. We just talked about that a little bit. Um, yeah. So a small thing that you can start doing is to, when you need to listen to yourself, when you're looking for some guidance, when you're looking for some information, take a moment. And doesn't have to be about anything big or important. It could just be like, something general that can have very little impact on, your daily life or whatever, right? But just take a moment and ground yourself, be in your body, listen to what your body is telling you, notice what kinds of thoughts or images or whatever pop into your head. This isn't about quieting your mind, Um, it's about listening and paying attention and noticing, not quieting. Okay. Um, and as you do this more often and more regularly, you will start to notice that you can tell the difference between things that are conditioned, learned things that are other people's um, nonsense that has been put, that you've learned over your life or whatever, societal conditioning and all that stuff, and what is actually your true inner voice. And when you hear it, when you experience it, you will know it, because it'll be very different than like the conditioned uh, responses that come up, right? Um, so I have a little mini ritual that you can do and try out if you want to, um, just to help start that practice of getting in the habit of asking your own intuition, asking yourself whether think that that information is coming from 100% inside of you or is coming from spirit, the divine, or whatever. It is all filtered through your body and through your lived experience. So, um, you have to practice that communication, right? Because if I receive like an image or like some lyrics from a song, what I would understand that to mean would would be something very different than what you would if you received the same lyrics or whatever, right? Um so that's important to keep in mind. You're using your own discernment, you're understanding how information is filtered through your own lived experience and your own interests and knowledge and all that good stuff, right? So, this little mini ritual, you can light a candle if you want to. It does not have to be a fancy candle, it doesn't have to be a specific color. You don't even have to light a candle if you don't want to. It's optional. Sometimes candles can really help set the mood for things, right? Um, Ground yourself in whatever way works best for you. I like to just imagine connecting with earth energy. We already have earth energy in our bodies because our bodies are um, earthly objects and part of this physical plane. And then imagine, you know, roots going down into the earth and just really sinking deep down and getting into that rich, dark, delicious soil and being able to draw up through those roots the earth energy. That's what I like to do. You can do it how you like to do it. Um, and then you're going to say to yourself, because this is a practice, this is learning to listen and learning to trust, right? And learning to believe yourself, right? So you may or may not want to write this down. You can make your own little statement affirmation thing if you want to. So the one I have is, I honor the wisdom that lives within me. My truth is sacred. My voice has power. And you're going to repeat that to yourself. You're going to repeat that or whatever one you write to yourself throughout the day as needed when you're doing these little grounding sessions, um, because you're working on the process of undoing the learning of being told that you cannot trust or listen to yourself, that some outside authority other than you knows what is best for you at all times, right? Undoing that. And it seems like a very small and tiny thing to do. It's not, it's not the same as big plans and going out and doing these massive things that have huge impact and immediate impact on the world, right? It's a small thing. These these changes, these learning to listen to our intuition and to trust ourselves and to care for ourselves and treat ourselves with kindness are little ripples that spread out, right? Little ripples that spread out, little drops in the bucket. The little, the flaps of butterfly wings, where the ripples build and grow and turn into tsunamis of change, or drops in the buckets eventually overfill the buckets and it's a flood of change, or the butterfly flaps its wings and causes a hurricane or a tornado or something of change, right? It's small and it builds and it grows. The more we do it, the better it gets, the stronger it gets, the more powerful it gets, the more impact it has. So, thank you for listening. Like, subscribe if you want to um, know about those videos when they come out. Um, if you want to share an experience or some, with listening to your intuition or ask any questions or anything like that, please do so down in the comments. Okay. Thank you.